Slovenia is threatening us. And Orban, the Hungarian one, to stop the supply of diesel fuel and electricity. Because we don't want attention, we don't want to export Russian oil through the Druzhba pipeline, which was built by Russia. Please explain this game of the Russian Federation to me. Why did they attack their own refinery after all, leaving behind their strategic Trojan horses within the European Union? Without that cheap fuel, and as for Orban, it is even worse. Just a little over a month and a half before the upcoming elections, right when he really needs that extra money to buy off his electorate with low prices at the local gas stations.
Well, I think it's quite a straightforward and simple calculation, basically shifting all the blame onto Ukraine, so to speak. When the Russians gave Orban a card and at the same time effectively forced him to act tough. In other words, if he weren't in such a difficult and dire situation, maybe he wouldn't be so actively speaking out against Ukraine. Because he's under pressure from Europe, so to speak, and sometimes he would just pretend not to notice. It's not that he spoke in favor of Ukraine, he would simply leave the room when certain issues were being decided and those issues would get resolved. Well, he learned to live without Orban. We saw that those 90 billion were voted on without Orban, without Fico. Here's a loan to Ukraine at the expense of Russian money. But Putin is also putting pressure on Orban to provoke him into taking more drastic actions. These are some very tough measures indeed. We can clearly see that the election campaign in Hungary is now well underway, featuring some very openly anti-Ukrainian rhetoric. Essentially, for Viktor Orban, the main slogans are that Ukraine is a direct enemy that wants a state of decline for the country of Hungary. And he has built his entire election campaign on this.
But so far it hasn't helped him much. 10 points. He is losing to his opposition rival. And of course it was very funny this week to watch how Trump made Rubio go on a campaign tour in support of Orban. I can only imagine what kind of mood he was in while doing it. Rubio, but the thing is, I think this will help very little. I think Hungary, Budapest could become a real hotspot after the election because Orban, let's be honest, he won't just give up power regardless of how he moves from falsification to more serious kinds of things.
Yes, it's a tense situation. We'll be watching, especially since it's close to us. It's on the European continent. So, for example, the impeachment of Trump. Trump also won't want to leave without an internal war. In the United States, everything is heading toward civil war. In fact, a civil war is already underway there. Because when certain police units in a state, aside from and against the governor's decision, arrive and start killing white Americans, that's a civil war. And it's happening in Congress, it's happening in the mass media as well. So in reality, there's already a slow-burning civil war going on in America, and it's been happening for a year now. And remember how Kirk was killed as well? It's all part of the same trend. And today, by the way, we were told that some guy with a shotgun ran into Congress again. They did detain him there, though. Well, apparently he was crazy or something, like it always happens in America. And it ended up being fine. He surrendered. But the simple reality is that in the United States of America, where there are several million or even tens of millions of firearms, this war could very easily turn into a bloody massacre at any moment. And the same kind of thing could happen in Hungary too, because even right here in the peaceful country of France, over the course of the past 3 full days, we have been dealing with a very similar case to that one. It is a case involving a young teenage neo-fascist who was killed by those very same Antifa members. And basically, it really seems like it was a violent clash between these two opposing groups. The left-wing Antifa movement, which many of us used to think of as just polite young boys wearing glasses, has transformed. They are now just as strong and physically muscular, and this applies to both the guys and the girls. Furthermore, they are fully ready, so to speak, on both sides of the political divide to physically start killing their opponents. And in fact, this exact kind of dangerous social tension is currently happening across Western Europe as well, too.
Yes, the world is slowly going crazy, but we've been observing this for quite some time already. It's all rather sad somehow.